welcome to your 8th Java programming tutorial. I am Evan, and in this tutorial I will teach you how to use arrays, how to set up arrays, and as well as how to generate a random number generator. So even before we start the new lesson, let's go over the old homework that I left last time. So the first problem looks like this, and then there's a expanding button that you can expand or close. So that's a good way to keep your code all organized, but you can still keep track of which method you have because there are your names there in the front and also your parameters. So inside here, let's skip the main method for now because it's just executing what's in our other methods. So first one, I'm having the scanner. I create a scanner called input, and then I get a user input and assign to user input, and then I return the user input as a double. This is the first method, and then now the second method. So here is where the things get a bit interesting. Now inside here, before I start anything, I'm going to print out what A, B, and C all are. So the 3 scores that the user has input. Then after that, I will initialize both the highest score and then the second highest score. So it has to be equal to 0 before you can pass into my third parameter. So my get average score, this method, it requires the highest number and second highest number, which is are here, those two numbers. But before you even put inside here, you have to initialize it. So what I mean by initializing is that when you have the data types following by a name called a number and then equal to a value. So this is why I call by initializing. When I call declaring, it's called double a number and then semicolon. That's it. So this is called declaring. This is called initializing. Initializing is giving a actual value to your data type and your variable. But in declaring, you're not giving it a value yet. So keep that out of the way. So we know that both have to be initialized before you can put inside the other parameters, because the method does not know if this is a equal to 0 or a null. So if it's a null value, then it does not have any value, it's not even 0. So if this is null, then this does not make sense. The method cannot execute this. So you have to initialize it first. And after you initialize both variables, let's compare them. So first, compare if a is greater than b and a is greater than c. So in this case, I mean the double ampersand. This means and. So for this, it have to be a greater than b and a greater than c. If both of them are true, then this statement is true. If any of them is false, then the whole thing is false. Now, let's see this. The double pipe. That's the key above your enter key. And then press shift and then press the key. It will give you the pipe. And then the pipe is or. So if a is greater than b or a is greater than c, then it will be true. So if one of them is true, then the whole thing is true. Now let's get that out of the way. If a is greater than b and a is greater than c, that means that a is the greatest between the three. So I will assign the highest number to a. And then if b is greater than c, then b is greater than c and b is also less than a. So the second highest will be b. Then else, so if this is false, then c is greater than b, then the second highest number will be c. Then do the same thing for the other two, if b is greater than both and if c is greater than both. So I will use the else if because if only one can be true, so I will just skip the rest of them to save some memory. Now let's get this out of the way. This is done, and now let's print it out. So the highest two scores average is, and then I will get the average, and this is the method I can print my average with. So I can take two arguments. That's my highest number and my second highest number. Those have been initialized and assign a new value to them, and I'll just pass into these parameters. So inside here, my get average method, there are two parameters. Then I'll create a new variable called average, and that's the high score plus the second high score, and then the quantity divided by 2. And then I return the average. So this one is a double data type. So plus a double. And then that's what it prints out. And then before that, let's go back to the main. So inside main, you're going to have determine highest and second highest. So inside main, I have a method called determine highest and second highest. So that's the method that I have, and then it takes 3 parameters. So how this works is that when they call this method, and then it will take in look at the parameters. So inside the parameter, there's another method. So get user score, and then it will call the get user score, and that's where the scanner happens. So you have 3 scanners taking 3 scores, and then after that, it's going to calculate the second highest and the highest, and then it will end up printing them out. And then let's try this out if it works. So the first number 100, second number 24, third number 46. Let's enter. So the first is 100, second is 24, third is 46, and the highest number is 100 plus 46, and the average of them is 73. So this one's correct. So now let's go over the second homework, because this one's pretty straightforward. Alright, so this is my second homework answer. So first, let's skip what the min does. Now let's go over to the get user input. So this one is the same thing. You have to initialize a scanner and then input a string to a scanner and then return that string. Now inside here, you will return a string, and then now I will take the parameter as a string to input, and then I will print out what's inside there. So what you input is a string, and then it will loop from the last point. So the last point will be I equals to input.length minus 1. That's your last digit, the last index of your string. And then it will be greater than or equal to 0, so it will be loop from the last digit back to 0, and each time it will be decreased by 1, so it will decrease 1 by 1 by 1. And then inside there, it will be system.out.print input. That's the input, and then this one refers to what you input. That's your parameter. And then dot char at, the character at, and then the I, the length minus 1 is your last digit, and then when the I decreases by 1, it will print out the character, and it will decrease by 1 and then print out another character. Now this one's pretty straightforward, and then inside here I'm just pointing the user input, and then it will return a string, and then the print backward, it will get a string, and then it will print out what's inside there. And this one is return a string, and this one's void because printing out does not require to return anything. Now let's run this. Let's say hello world, I love pizza. Now let's press enter, and then it will print it all backwards. So this is how you do the second problem. It's not very useful for now, but when I get to array, it will be really useful when you trying to loop through every index inside the array. So keep this in mind. The input.length, you will use the same thing in the array. Now let's go on to today's lesson, which is an array. So let's delete this. So array is a data structure that can hold one data type at once. A data structure is a way to store data in an organized way. Your computer storage uses NTFS or FAT32 on the old flash drives. Those are data structures. So if you have a bunch of integers or a bunch of strings, you can put them all within one array. The limitation is that you have to declare the size of the array as well as the data type. So you have to declare it once, and then you cannot change the data type, and you cannot change the size of the array. And that data type can only host that specific data type within that array. So do not put anything else in there, it will break the program. So let's start with an integer, int, and then you put those square brackets. Those are indicates that this is a array but not anything else, or a variable or something. So this is a array variable called integer array equals new int, and then inside there define how many integers do you want to put it in. So I want to put in 5 of them, and then put a semicolon there. So in here, data type followed by square brackets, that indicates that this is a array, and then the name of the array, this is an array variable, and I'll explain later that why this is very important to use. And after that is your new keyword. That means that you are creating an object inside the memory address, and then after that is the data type again with how many variables that you are going to put inside the array. So after that, I will put in a value towards your array. So it starts index from 0 all the way up until 4. So the 5 of them starts from 0 until 4. Now let's get integer array square brackets at 0, assign what value to it. It have to be an integer, so let's assign 5 to it. And then after that, I will assign all 5 of them. So just give me a sec here. Two, three, four. So now you have all these values. Now you have this array, but how do you print out all these values? One way you can do it is to use the for loop, but you cannot just print it out this thingy. This array variable is not able to be printed. So if you system.out.print your integer array, if you print out this, look at what you get. You will get a memory address. So this is what I mean by do not print the array variable but the array value inside there. So I'm going to show you in Photoshop. So inside here, you have a array variable that we have called the int array. Let me just scramble my word. And inside this array, so this is the only entry towards your value that you're going to have. So inside there, we have 5 of them. So make it 5 boxes with all the values that I input, which is like here, the 5, 4, 2, 5, 9. Those are the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and index 4. So all those index have a value, and the only way to get this value is through this entry point. But you cannot print this. This one is located in memory address, and all this are in memory, but this time all those values that you can print it out. So do not print out the memory address of this pointer, but the actual value inside the array variable. So by doing that, you can do the following. So inside the for loop, so for parentheses int I as usual equals 0, and then this is a new part. So your integer array, so your array variable dot length. This will give you the exact length of your array variable. So your array variable I declare to be a length of 5 integers. So just 0 to 4. Now this length will be 5, and then for I less than your length, so your I should be less than 5. So from goes to 0 to 4. Now inside there, I plus plus, and inside there I'm going to system.out.print line. Inside there, going to have integer array square brackets at I. So at 0 is going to be going to the array index at 0. So integer array at index 0 is 5, then it will print it out 5, and then the loop around. So I equal to 1, what's the value for the index at 1? So it's 4, and it will print out 4, and then I goes to 2 all the way until the upper bound, which is the integer array dot length, which is 5. It's less than 5, so the last one will be 4, and the 4 will print out 9. And then when I run this, it will be 5, 4, 2, 5, 9. That's exactly what I typed in here. So now you might think that when I create a new, copy this. When I copy and then paste this and I change this value, I create a new array with the same dimension, and that int array equals integer array, that I'm going to have the same thing. Yes, you're going to have the same thing, but what if I change the first one? It will also change on the second one. If you do not believe me, let's try this. So so I got out prompt. This one change it to integer array dot length and I plus plus system dot out dot print line your integer array at index I. So print it out, and then now here I have a line break, and then have another one. let's see, what's this one? Int array, int array. So when I print it out, the two should be the same thing, right? But if I change, what if I change a value inside my original one, the integer array? So integer array square bracket at 0, let's change it to negative 100. Now if I want to print those out, the two will be the same. This, I will show you a demonstration in here. So now we have the int array. Now this should be integer array, and now I have an int array. It's gonna be confusing. So those two are different arrays. This one I created first, and this one I created second. Now if I want to make this equal to this array number 1, then you're pointing the same memory address towards the same set of values. So this means that, let's make a new layer. So this means that when you have two array variables, you're pointing towards the same memory address, and then now there's only one set of array values. So if I changed one value inside here, then both of the array variables will gonna change. So if I loop through the first one and then the second one, and then I change a value, then both the first and the second will change because they're referring to the same memory address, and that's not good. If you want to distinguish between those two, you are going to have to do a deep copy instead of a shallow copy. A shallow copy is just to assign the memory address of one array variable to another array variable. So that's a shallow copy. That's not always what you want to do because you will manipulate both of the values within the same array. Now, if you want to change that, you are going to delete this, and I will leave it up there. And this one, I'm going to do a deep copy. So this is what you do. So we have a for loop, int I equals 0, I less than integer array dot length, and then I plus plus. Inside the array, you're going to have int array at what index you have. You have index I, and then assign it to be the value of your integer array at index I. So at 0, the index I, which is a value of 5, will be assigned to the index I for your int array. So at int array 0, you will have the same value as your integer array at 0. So keep on going for the 5 of the integers to finish. Now if I change this, the integer array dot 0, that's my first array, to negative 100, it will not be affecting the second array. So now let's print it out. I'll probably just use another method, public static void print array. Now in here, you will have the parameter of an int array, so with a square brackets. Yeah, array, that doesn't really matter. So for system out array index I. So this time I can use my method instead. That will be a lot easier. So integer array and a line break, another array of my second array. Now let's print this out. You will note that the first one it changed to negative 100, but your second array it stays at 5 because you're doing a deep copy. Now this is what it's going to show. It's going to be look like this. So first array, after you do a for loop, that you copy each one of the value from array A to array 1 to array 2. Now even though they have same array values, but they're in different memory address, you're creating a deep copy, so each one of them is pointing towards a different location in the memory address. So the array 2 will point to its own, and then the array 1 will point to its own. before that, you have a shallow copy. That's when your array number 2 is pointing towards the same one. That will not be optimal for some users. So this one is not what you want to do. This is not what you want to do. You want to do this part. You want to have its own array to avoid messing up between the two. So now this is done, I will teach you another way to print out the entire loop. So keep in mind that this will only print out the entire steps of the loop. It will not print out a specific integer or with a bound. It will print out the entire thing. So just keep in mind for that. And the method will look like this. Just comment it out. So I think I already teach you how to comment. So when you put 2 /, will comment out the entire line, and then when I put a bunch of /, will comment out multiple lines. Or you can do a comment block. It will be like this, and end the block like this, and it will comment out the entire block. But on Eclipse, you select everything and press Control plus the question mark without the shift. So press the Control plus the /, it will comment out or decomment. But because I modified it, it will put out another set of the comment. So that's not good. I'm going to reset this. So now you select all. It will deselect everything. Now inside here, this is called a for each loop. That's for each loop. So this is a loop that I'm going to teach you. That's going to iterate through a array. So I'm going to deselect everything. Inside here, I have this array with all those values. Without using the print array statement, I'm going to use the for each loop. So for, within that, I'm going to have a data type. So what data type I want to iterate through, that's the int. So now a variable, whatever variable you want, that will be fine. I want it to be item, and then put a colon there. And then what array do you want to iterate through? So integer array, and inside there, curly braces. What do you want to do with this array? And then this is the one that you want to print it out. So system.out.print line. Print out my items. So inside here, it will get my value for my first integer, and then it will be the items. And then what do you want to do with the item? I want to print it out. I want to add them. I want to add them and print it out. And now let's just print it out for now. Just print it in this. So 5, 4, 2, 5, 9. So you don't need the lower bound. You don't need the upper bound. You don't need the increments. You just have to do the for each loop. Now let's have item plus 5. Item plus equal to 5. Then now print it out again. So 5 becomes 10, and then 4 becomes 9, and plus 5 to each of the item. So first item, it will be the first index of the loop, and then first index of the array, and then it will just keep on going like the for loop does. So this is it for the array. Actually, there's one more thing I want to go through. So actually, there's another way to assign your value towards your array. So instead of using the index and assign value to each index, you can do it this way. So now delete this part, curly braces, and inside there is what's your value. So 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Semicolon there. Now if I do a for each loop in this, it will print out the exactly same thing. Integer item integer array system out item. So it will print out the exact same thing, just different way to assign your value towards your array. This is one way, and that way is another way, and then you can use the scanner to loop through each index of the array and then assign it by user input. That will also work. Now I will go over how to use a random number generator. So that one's going to be a little bit easier, I believe. So with the array, keep in mind, I'm just going to demonstrate it within the array. Now let's import java.util.random. So now after we import this, let's create a new object called rand equals new random. So inside here you create a object called random. Now you want to do a next.int or .next double. So for this, I'm just going to have my int random int array equals new int with 5 of them. Delete this for int I equal to 0, I less than random integer array length I plus plus. Within that for loop, I'm going to have random int array at I will be rand dot next int. So now you have next int or a next int with an integer bound. So I'm going to use the bound, and then this will be the bound between 0 and whatever the boundary you have. So when I have 100, this system will have an integer from 0 all the way up until 100, but not including 100. So from 0 to 99 is what it's going to produce. Now let's end this, and I'm just going to invoke this print array of my random array. Now let's run this. It will give me 5 random number. Now if I run this again, it will be totally different every single time. Now if I want to use the double, next double, it will not be able to take in a boundary. So in here, I'm going to change this to double as well, so you can take in the double. Now let's print this be a double as well. Now let's print it out. So have 5 different doubles. Now if I want to put those into a decimal within like 2 decimal places, you can multiply this by 100, and it will go between 0 to 100, I believe. Yeah, not including 100. It will be 2 decimal places. You multiply by 100, it will be 94, and then it will be not including to the 100 mark. So now that's that. I will show you how to not starting from 0. So let's go back some steps. So now you have int random int array. So now I have the next int, and then I have a boundary of 100. So now it goes from 0 to 99. If I want to start from 20, so you plus 20 on the end, so it will go from 20 all the way up until 120 minus 1, that's 119. So if I want to run this, it will be everything in here, and then if I want to run it again, it will never pass 20 mark. So it will not below 20. So it will start from 21 or all the way up until 119 without including 120. So this is it for this lesson. I will have 2 homework for you. So the first one will be, so the first problem will be sorting a array of 5 numbers and put them in a decreasing order. So if I give you 2, 5, 3, 1, 6, you will be able to put this into a decreasing order. So starting from 6, 5, 3, 2, 1 in that order. Take some time to think about this. It will not be that easy, but it's definitely not hard. And that's the second question is generating a birthday. Generating a birthday. And let user guess what that birthday is. So if the birthday is too early, then prompt the user to guess a older date. So in this case, I'll give you an example like November 21st, 1997. You will be guessing the three integers. If they're not the same as the user input, then prompt the user to either increase or decrease the date. Now, this will be generating a date, so this will be random. And then please make sense to not go over 12, do not go over 31, do not go over the present day, the present year, and then not below the 1900. So that will be just too crazy. So those two are your homework. In this lesson, I show you how to create an array, how to input array, how those deep copy and shallow copy are, and how to avoid this, and the concept behind both the shallow array and the deep array, with also the random number generator, how to generate a number that's not starting from 0, as well as how to generate a double. Until then, stay active, be happy, and plan algorithms. I'll see you in the next tutorial.